Today it's time for the very best of the best to face off against each other in a grand finals of a premier StarCraft 2 tournament. Spawning right here in this best of 7 in the top right hand corner of a map called Evil Heart. Playing with the Red Terran SCVs, we have none other than Maru. His opponent in this RSL Season 3 Grand Finals with the blue Protoss pieces. You know him, you love him. We're looking at herO's main Nexus. Now these two, oh my god, they keep playing against each other and the series are just phenomenal. Now I hope you've got yourself a drink because I heard, and I haven't seen these games yet, but I've heard that this finals is excellent and some people are even calling it the very best finals of all of 2025. I know it's the end of the year. I know there's a lot riding on that statement because we've seen quite a few tournaments. But there's no denying that apparently this one is ranked amongst the very best. And this is going to be a treat for me as well, because I haven't seen the games. I don't know who... And well, I do know, sadly for me, who ends up winning it. Because if I scroll anywhere on the internet whatsoever, it's pretty difficult for me to avoid it. But that being said, I don't know what ended up going down in these games. And I also don't know what the overall score is going to be. Now, real quick, as far as the format of this event goes, you may remember that Maru played against herO in the upper bracket finals of this same tournament. So, the RSL uses a double elimination format, meaning that with herO winning in the upper bracket finals, and I did cast that series too, have a look at the archives in case you want to go and, well, check that out, because the series was, once again, phenomenal. But since herO knocked Maru down to the loser's bracket, and therefore seated himself into the grand finals, and since Maru then in the lower bracket finals ended up taking down Shin 4-1, I also did cast that one. Very good series. One of the very best games, especially game number 1, that I've ever seen this year. You should also go check that one out on the channel after this one. Anyways, long story short, since Maru climbed back into the finals that way, and since herO did not use one of his 2 lives in this particular tournament just yet, what it all comes down to is that if Maru ends up winning this particular best of 7, we play one additional best of 3 to decide the winner of the event. Whereas if herO ends up winning this best of 7, since he is in the upper bracket, he's coming from the upper bracket and he did not lose a series in the tournament yet, we're gonna, well, just see him as the victor of the event. So if Maru wins, we do one additional series. If herO wins, the tournament is over and he will be crowned the victor. Now, this particular event is for 10 million Korean won, which is the equivalent of about, I think, $7-ish thousand, something along those lines. First blood right here in the series with the first Zealot going down. Maru actually opening up with a bunch of Reapers, which is a little bit odd. Hiding that second barracks inside of the main base, whereas on the other side of the map, herO is rushing up Dark Templar. Now, these two, they have a lot of history. Obviously, both of them are quite tricky, especially with their strategic choices. But I don't really mind this all too much right here for the Protoss, because Maru is opening up with what is effectively a full 1 base. So we have 4 production structures on 1 base. Are we going to add on a 3rd barracks as well, Maru? No, it's going to be a depot here. Anyways, there's not going to be a lot of vision here inside of the main base of the Protoss either. With only 1 scan at a time available for Terran, are these Dark Templar just going to straight up win the game? Only time will tell. The job of the Stalker right now is easy. Do not allow these Reapers into the main. Somehow, some way, sneak the DTs across the map and hope that you get there before Terran can really get any proper detection. This is not usually a build order where you will go for a blind Raven. If Maru is sniffing out that something is weird, he could be, switching it on over. But the first Dark Templar is being warped in. If Maru sees the little blur, he might be able to still swap the add-ons around and, well, get a little bit of value that way. Obviously, Dark Templar are going to be phenomenal as well defensively, so, yeah, we have enough energy for 1 orbital scan, but that's pretty much it. The 2 Dark Templar are already arriving now. Is Maru going to see the little blur? He does see the little blur. herO, though, anticipated it, waited with that, well, second Dark Templar right outside of the circle. But no matter what comes down from this particular Dark Templar opener, right, this is a phenomenal spot for herO, because he's the one with an expansion, and even though I think it's unlikely he's going to straight up win the game since a Raven right now is coming up, he's got the superior economy already, and Maru is still just stuck on a single orbital. So even though the Dark Templar are sacrificing themselves for the greater good, And even though the Dark Templar don't seem to be dealing any damage whatsoever, this is still a phenomenal spot for Protoss because of the Dark Templar. Yeah. They're carrying the game without really providing any damage or really dealing any kills whatsoever or getting any kills whatsoever. Okay. Well, at least there's a Raven here. Oh, we're gonna pull the boys. Yeah, this is still going to be really scary for herO because he does have a superior economy. Yes, he does have the Dark Templar, but now there's mobile detection in the form of the Raven. If he can snipe the Raven with the Stalkers, that would obviously be massive, but, well, herO is well aware of that exact problem. Obviously, Maru is not just gonna give that Raven too much wiggle room. He's baiting it, though. He really wants those Stalkers to move in. Blink, by the way, is not done. He decided to start it up, then canceled it in favor of Charge. Charge is really nice for stopping these attacks with, but is there enough? The Raven actually needs to be a little bit careful. There are plenty of shield batteries available. Sentry now coming up too. Immortal here, putting in a lot of work, but you know what? This is still one hell of an attack right here for the Terran player to start the series off. Siege tanks right now within a very nice bit of range. The Immortal does not live up to its name. Zealots, though, are putting in a lot of work. Second Immortal is just seconds away from spawning. Maru's economy is absolutely atrocious, but maybe there's more than he really needs? Oh, Immortal is on range, or within range once more of that Siege tank, but it's not going to be able to actually get the job done. I can't believe that Maru still pulls this off. There ain't no way, Maru. What a game. What a way to start off the series. I mean, the tone is set. Yeah. It's very uncommon to go for a Raven, but GG has to be called. Maru makes all the right moves in the end and does wrap up the match. And with a little bit of spice, immediately at the very beginning of the series, we now find ourselves on the Celestial Enclave. Sorry, it needs to be done. If I don't activate the reverb button, people in the YouTube comments get very upset. They're not gonna hit the like button below the video to show their support. You know, we gotta do what we gotta do. Certain things just have to be done for, you know, the channel to still, well, hopefully continue working out in 2026 as well. Now, all jokes aside, that was a very nice game to start things off. I really thought it was gonna be great for herO across the board. But I guess he over-droned, right? Like he over-probed. He made a lot of workers. He didn't really need that many. Because if you think about it, Terran on one base is going to have, at the absolute maximum, 22 SCVs plus a mule. So I think if herO would have halted making workers at like 30, right? Still have a sufficient amount of income, but, you know, more than a Terran, but not by so much as like 40-something. You could have seen him, instead spend the additional resources on more defensive units, be it Archons, be it Zealots with Charge. I think he would have been in a really good spot. But the misread right there from herO, I think, is the fact that he assumed that there would be a second orbital command on the back of it. It's very uncommon to see a Terran player opening up with only a single command center, just the one that they were given. And I think we are going to be seeing a second one here on the Celestial Enclave right at the very start. This is what we normally see, of course, from Terran players. Now, neither player really going for an early game scout. herO has not gone across the map. Maru has not gone across the map either. A little bit of corner cutting, but it is a best of 7. It's going to be a long series regardless. And if you don't play at least a little bit of variety, even with the little things, right? Like, for example, cutting a worker scout here and there, you're unlikely going to be able to obtain the victory. And that really is the key. When you're playing a best of 7, you have to mix it up. You cannot do the same thing over and over and over again. There was a time period in StarCraft 2's history where that was a potential threat. That was a potential style. But in 2025, going into 2026, you do not really have that as a luxury anymore. And I think it's better for everybody, right? It does make the game more strategic, and it certainly, as a fan, does make the game more exciting as well. The first dance here will begin as herO decides to mix it up yet again. Stargate opener. Stargate builds in Protoss versus Terran are very uncommon. We don't usually see Stargate builds anymore. Most of the time, if we have to assign a certain standard, which again, a couple of question marks here and there as to what the standard truly is, but the standard would be for Protoss right now against against Terran most of the time would be to open up with Blink Stalkers. Blink Stalkers, either like 3 gates, sometimes 2 gates, sometimes even 4 gates, right? But you do go for a bunch of Blink Stalkers and then into a 3rd Nexus. Now, as always, I love Phoenix builds. I think Phoenix builds are very fun to watch. They're a high-risk, high-reward type of strategy, but on a map like the Celestial Enclave, I don't really mind it so much. There's only so much scouting that Maru can do. He's really trying to get that Reaper up to this little location here so he can go into the main base. I love this little spot here too, this little pocket that herO has made, just making it very difficult for the Reapers to move around. And, well, there's also a pylon now blocking a potential SCV scout going in from the back. This is going to be a unspotted Phoenix build order. Now, what's nice about Phoenixes is that in theory, it does assume that you have good micro, but what's nice about the Phoenix is that in theory you can defend everything. Widowmine drop goes across the map. For obvious reasons, Phoenixes can shut this down. They can lift the Widowmines, they can kill the Medevac. It is not very complex. Still, you have to be in the right position at the right time. And currently Maru seems to be on a track towards the pocket expansion, so this is going to not be seen here by herO until it already arrives, I believe. Phoenixes are still trying to wait until they reveal themselves, but I think they have to swing into motion right about right now. Not a whole lot of value, though, over in that pocket expansion just yet. The single Hellion coming out. It's weird to go for the Hellions, and whoo, he does get the lift off just barely in time. Yeah, Phoenixes are finicky, but in theory, they're so incredibly powerful. It's just that if you make one little slip up there as the Protoss player, Widowmine burrows, right? So I think herO assumed there for just a moment it was going to be 4 Hellions inside of that plane. That's why he lifted the first one immediately. If he would have known that it was a bunch of Widowmines, I think he would have waited. But either way, he does get the lift up in time, and even though it was a bit closer than he would have liked, he's now going to be able to go in for the counterattack. He wants to hunt down that Raven. The Raven that was so annoying in the first game does kill it. And the Phoenixes continue flying on. Now, fun fact about Phoenixes, they're actually quite tanky. They don't look it, but they're more beefy than, for example, an Oracle. That's why they can survive certain hits. An Oracle here, if this would have been an Oracle, would have been dead. Okay. So, what is the follow-up plan right now here for our Terran player? We've been looking at the Protoss for a while. It's going to be just a good old triple Rex, triple command center build here. So nothing all too crazy. What Maru does need to fire up soon is the Stimpack upgrade. I'm assuming we will be going for that here in just a moment. But this is not really a setup for the Terran where he can really be too active out on the map. He can obviously give it a shot. But the problem with Phoenixes is that the Phoenixes will kill the mineral line and then still be home to defend in time too. Finally, one of them falls, but this has been a mighty successful build for herO thus far. herO following this up with the more modern approach. The norm for many years was to go for a Colossus follow-up. So you go Phoenixes into Colossi. In this particular instance, you go Phoenixes into charge slots and then into a Templar Archives. The Templar Archives has the requirement of a Twilight Council. So he's going to be able to get that Storm going or just Archon Zealot going really nice and quickly. Yeah, and while Maru is defending, he's not really going to be able to do too much. Finally, he goes for the combat shields. He still, by the way, did not go for Stimpack. I almost wonder if it's a misplay, because he has the resources for it. You would always go for Stimpack before combat shields. So I'm not exactly sure what has gone wrong here. Now, it doesn't matter too much as long as the upgrade is you get the upgrades done eventually. But every once in a while, we see Terrans going across the map, and they tried to hit the Stimpack button, and they realized that they don't have it. Yeah, he fires up the +1 carapace here. The +1 infantry armor before the Stimpack research, which doesn't make sense at all. So, misplay here from Maru. And it shows us that maybe he is human after all. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Storm coming up. 4th Nexus, already about halfway done. The gateway numbers have grown up to 9. As we all know, you can only build the total amount of gateway numbers to either an even number, I think that's acceptable, or a prime number. Anything else, not allowed. Storm is going to be done really soon, though. And without Stimpack, it's going to be really difficult for these units to even maneuver out of it. Yeah, I'm not okay with 9 gateways. Oh, we have 10. We have 10. Okay. Whew, thank God. We have 10 gateways. We can all breathe again. Whew. All right. Concussive shells coming up here from Maru, and now he indeed did realize that Stimpek is very late. Now, the good thing, I guess, for him is that this is a map that's very difficult to push on. Like, where is herO going to be engaging from? This base is inaccessible. This high ground is incredibly well protected. On most maps, the third, or this low ground at the very least, is a bit more wide open. So I don't believe we're going to be seeing herO push up to the high ground. But you know what? This is herO we're talking about, so you never truly know. He does have 4 high... he does have 4 High Templar there inside of the plane. I think he also has spotted that there are 4 little, well, holes on the ground there. He's going to see those in just a moment here, too, with the Observer. That's a very juicy location for a Psy Storm. Or we might just be able to lift them all. Sure, why not? And this is going from bad to worse right now here for Maru. Because with the Widow Mines gone, I think suddenly we can move. Storm! Storm! There's still no stim! And without stim, I mean, herO assumed that Stimpek would be done, but without stim, how in the world are you going to be able to stop? My God, I can't believe herO broke through this. That's a crazy move. Couple of hallucinated Colossi here as well. They're actually quite good for high ground vision. And this is the type of skill check that not a lot of Protoss players would do. Not a lot of Protoss players would feel comfortable moving up to the high ground. herO fully assumed that, well, we would see Stim already. Can we please finish the orbital? We will. He fully assumed that Stimpek was done. But when he realized that wasn't the case, well, you may as well push through a little harder. Just like that, 41 SCVs go down. Fleet Beacon to celebrate together with a second Stargate. We're doing a Tempest transition right now, and maybe even a Mothership. Usually quite a bad unit against Terran, but you know what? There's no way that Maru is going to have the economy to make the Vikings that are, yeah, in big enough numbers to really deal with this sort of thing. This is still Maru we're talking about, though. He gets punished immediately for making a little slip-up. But he's a very strong defensive player, and I still like this overall positioning here from Maru. Like, Protoss moving up towards this top of the ramp is just atrocious. He needs Stim to be able to defend here, but likewise, herO also does need Storm to be able to actually push up. No High Templar available at the moment. What we do have is a 5th Nexus. So this is a 5th that's going to be done, as Terran is still stuck on 3 bases. There's 0 reason for herO to go up to the high ground. Oh, we do see a feedback over there. There's 0 reason to move up to this high ground, but why not? I guess one other thing to keep in mind with a best of 7 is stamina. Why waste energy in a game that's already won? Yeah. You can still see, though, what Maru can pull off with very small armies, but he also now realizes that this is not going to happen. We, by the way, have 3 carriers on the production tab on the back of this. herO just steamrolls to a victory. Game number 3. We find ourselves on Maganatha. A very big map. Loads of expansions available. Usually, actually, the travel distance on this map, right? To go from one side to the next, it just feels like it takes forever. So usually this is a map that's a little bit more macro-oriented. Now, I do have to say, though, that the tone has been set. Game number 1 and 2, they showed certainly that these guys mean business. We're not just playing our chill, relaxed macro games, and we're sort of like, oh no, you attack me, then I attack you. We don't really do those back and forths. Hyper-aggression, and if you make a mistake, that's it. Game over right away. No second chances. Cybercore here for herO yet again. Yeah, so the big mistake right there for Maru was simply forgetting Stimpek. Now, Stimpek is a pretty uncharacteristic error. It has to be said. It's kind of like forgetting, I don't know, Blink as a Protoss or forgetting Zergling speed as a Zerg. It's not unheard of. It happens every once in a while, but it is quite a blunder. And one that can certainly cost you later on in a series too, right? Like if this goes down to game number 7, Maru is going to certainly be regretting the fact that he ended up making such a newbie error in a way. Now, obviously, there's so many balls to juggle in a game of StarCraft 2. that it's very easy to drop one. But it happens. Maru's gonna obviously have to lift up this command center. Probe is moving in just to get a double check, but Maru's gonna have to lift up this command center and put it right in the middle. Luckily on Magadata, you have this beautiful indication of where you need to be positioning your structure. It's really difficult to not get it right, and there we go. Twilight Council right now here for herO, who, by the way, spawned at the top of the map. So we need to swap the scoreboard around. This is one of my caster pet peeves. I've pointed this out in several videos in the past. And several people have pointed out that they hate me for it. Should I mention it again? It's one of the things I try to pay attention to, okay? Sometimes I watch other StarCraft 2 commentators. I know. And viewers of mine have told me that sometimes they watch other StarCraft content creators too. Huh? What? Treason. Can't believe this. Anyways, I think as a StarCraft content creator, right? It's very important that the scoreboard reflects the positioning of the players. So the production tab, as well as the scoreboard over here, has herO in the top because he spawned at the top of the map. Now, many StarCraft content creators out there, and they will not be named. I'm not going to call anybody out, but they don't care about such things. And it bothers me. Yeah, Wardy actually pointed this out to me years ago. This must have been like, I don't know, 2015 or so. And ever since then, yeah, I've not been able to unsee it. It bothers me greatly. Sometimes I'm editing my own videos and I realized I got my scoreboard wrong. It happens. It doesn't really matter. But I do feel a slight bit of shame. Because I know it bothers some of you as well. All right, anyways. This time around, we have the engineering bay coming up right here for Maru. Nice and early. And there it is. The all-important upgrade. Maru probably double-checked it, triple-checked it this time around. It is indeed going to be Stim. herO likewise also checks for the green light. Cheeky little Widowmine drop, by the way, inside of the main base. Ah! Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay. Well, that was very dangerous. Could have been an absolute disaster, but it's actually fine. Getting the medevac there with two of the mines inside of it is really quite nice for herO, although he did have to sacrifice a Stalker. He was a little bit late on the pro pool. He decided to attack the mines there for just a moment, which I don't recommend. Only let the professionals attempt that sort of thing, okay? Maybe we need like a disclaimer at the start of every video. Viewers beware. Don't attack burrowed widow mines inside of your mineral line with probes. These are professionals. Well, it goes wrong for them as well every once in a while, too. One Stalker in the main base to check. Yeah, if there are any siege tanks or whatever nearby, and he is going to be able to shut down the combat shields. And you know what? We didn't have Stimpack in the last game on time. It's going to be costly. It's a lot of Stalkers dying. But they do get the job done. In the meantime, we do also have a Stalker dying at the front, it seems like. Is this too many losses, though, for herO? Like, is this truly worth it? Wow, for some reason, never even moved that one away. Probably didn't realize that it was still moving in that direction. It's nice to slow down the Terran, right? Because any sort of attack the Terran goes for, it really leverages on both of those upgrades finishing. But that was so many Stalkers dying for it that I think, yeah, I agree with Maru here. Just go for a push with the unupgraded version of the unit. Just go. He's hoping to get some lucky shots onto those Stalkers. Not going to happen. Obviously, the more time that goes by, though, the better this is going to be for Protoss. But I agree here with Maru. May as well just go for an attack before Stimpack and combat shields are done. He's a little afraid, though, because he doesn't know if, for example, the follow-up is going to be Charge or whether or not it's going to be Storm. Like, you don't want to be in a spot just like the previous game where you cannot really micro your units out of the storm because you don't have the movement speed boost. Okay. Yeah, and this is one of those spots where I think if Maru was the one leading the series 2-0, he may have attacked right now. But you don't want to go down to another relatively sloppy blunder. Good read by herO across the board, who's going to be going for a fourth Nexus, it looks like, as soon as he wakes up. There we go. He had the resources. And even though this is going to be a delayed attack, at some point those upgrades are going to finish. He's been dancing in the middle of the map for a couple of minutes now, and Stimpak and Combat Shields, they're nearly done. Zealot run by though in the meantime on the other side of the map, and obviously there's not a lot of units available. This is going to trigger a full retreat, it looks like. What about those Widow Mines? Oh, Zealot sacrifices itself. Nice little splitty there by herO. Very Zerg-esque. Oh, really? No way, Maru. Really? Okay, well, certainly Protoss is not going to expect this. We effectively have now turned this into a 2-base all-in. He's trying to hide the boys, but the boys are going to be here as a meat shield. Maru needs to effectively kill like a base and a half for this to be worthwhile, though. It's a lot of SCVs, by the way. I don't even really know if this is needed, but his army is massive. A Colossus, though, is also really nice to have. Zealots going in from the back. Zealots are gonna get the rep around right now. That Colossus is so nice to have. The force field actually helping out the Terran more than it's helping out the Protoss. Yeah, and with the Colossus down, second one is gonna spawn in a moment, but we may actually be in a spot just like game number 1, where it looks atrocious for Terran for just a moment, but then he somehow, some way, still gets the job done regardless. Second Colossus, by the way, just popped out of the Robo facility. It's going to be using its long legs to move on over in this direction. Both players losing so much eco. I think herO holds this, but the problem is mostly how much will he have left over at the end of it. Oh, Colossus not within range there of that shield battery, which is a really big problem. Maru decides to just skip the third. I don't disagree. I think you need to do more than the third base worth of damage. So he doesn't really want to give Protoss too much time to move through once again. Robo facility very exposed. Pylon that is powering the Robo does get shut down just a few seconds before that third Colossus would have popped out. He's now going to hunt down the probes over at the fourth base too. A little bit of indecisiveness though from Maru. But if you look at the supply count, I don't really think he needs to be too concerned. Robo facility itself is going to die right now too. And it looks like the rally points from the Terran have indeed moved to the other side of the map. Little bit more stutter step micro, but at this point there's just so little available for the Protoss to actually hold on. herO is dancing with the few stalkers that he's got, going in between the natural and the fourth base, but brilliantly played again by Maru, man. Yeah, obviously it's better to never be in this position in the first place, but hey, if you can still somehow, some way come up with a win condition and you can then execute on the cause, it's still a sight to behold. Yeah, and herO is now just dealing with this Terran army, but interestingly enough, despite Maru being the one pulling the workers across the map, he now has significantly more economy, and therefore, he obtains the victory. The next map in this best of 7 series is Tokamak. I've decided to fast forward through about the first 2 minutes of the game, just because both players were opening up with very normal starts. And considering this is going to be a long series for them, but also for you, maybe even for me, although who cares about the commentator? No, I think it's probably fine to skip the first few minutes, just to get to the action a little bit quicker, especially when nothing interesting really is going on. I mean, let's be real, most people watching StarCraft 2 in 2025, they've probably seen a few games of TVP in the past. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, I've seen a couple. Yeah. Anyways, it's going to be a Twilight Council opener here for herO, and this is looking like a much more conventional build. As far as conventional builds are irrelevant for both herO as well as Maru, but this right here is nothing all too crazy. I'm assuming this is going to be good old Blink. Yep, it will be. And now the question mostly becomes, how many gateways is herO going to make before he builds up a third? Do we go for an odd number, a prime number? Do we go for just an illegal number? Is it going to be even? Well, for now, it looks like we're going to go for 3. Maybe 4. So we could even consider this a pi number of gateways. We can use it to measure the circumference of the entire... Anyways. Yeah. I guess the Nexus is not very circular, huh? No. They say aliens built the pyramids, right? Well, must have been the Protoss. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, though, it's going to be a double command center, 1-1-1 opener here for Maru. Nothing all too weird, but it does put action on him in general. He needs to get something done with his early game pressure. Good old siege tank coming up. Yeah, every once in a while, I end up in these like weird algorithms on the internet with conspiracy theorists, and there are some crazy ones out there, man. In the modern day and age, people have moved long past the aliens built the pyramids type of thing. It's fascinating. Yeah. Aliens definitely did not build the pyramids, guys. I'm sorry. No. It was probably just a bunch of guys. Yeah, just stacking rocks on top of each other. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Not as spicy a story, though. Alright, anyways, we've got ourselves triple gateway. And then indeed a good old third nexus. So this is a very conventional start for herO. Medevac drop going in. Cheeky little Widow Mine attempted, but easy snipe right here by our Protoss. I really like that herO kept those Stalkers back. So your gut instinct is to put the Stalkers on the perimeter, right? Put them over here on the edge. Hope you can intercept the Medevac. But at this level, obviously Maru is going to be paying attention to when the Medevac enters. So Maru checked the perimeter. He thought, okay, it was safe. Boosted in. Boost is going to be halfway on cooldown. Or halfway through its usage. And that's when the Stalkers can strike. Perfectly managed. On the back of this, we've got ourselves the Templar Archives and then charge. Nothing really to complain about. Hallucinated Phoenix to provide high ground vision. Yeah, and this is looking absolutely brilliant here for herO, who's now even sniping down the tech lab before Stimpak started up. Cool guys don't even look at the explosions, apparently. Yeah, this is beauty. Yeah, absolute beauty of a game so far here for Protoss. herO cannot complain about anything that's been happening thus far. Perfect start. Now, we do have a Liberator being a little bit of a nuisance, but guess what? It only got a single probe kill, and Blink is still pretty darn good. Yep, easy snipe there in the end still. Maru should have anticipated it. Unsieged the Liberator, but he decided to get a little bit greedy. Okay. To celebrate, double Forge together with Psystorm. I think the Psystorm research is a little bit late. Maybe a few seconds. But I highly doubt that it matters, because Maru now had to rebuild the tech lab. Then he started up Stimpak. And without Stimpak, he can't really go for a push anyways. And at this point, I mean, Storm is going to be long done before even Stimpak is. Yeah, this is the type of early game that every Protoss player that I know aspires to be able to play. It doesn't look very difficult, right? Like, if you look at some... Well, it doesn't look easy either, don't get me wrong, but... Sometimes you look at the games and you realize, okay, I'm never going to be able to play like this. This is a very well calculated, but not necessarily super smooth early game from herO. And herO pretty much never plays the super smooth style. It's not really what he does. He always has some inconsistencies in his gameplay, but it makes him so unpredictable. Ooh, I thought we were going to blink to the bottom of those rocks. Yeah. So what do you do now as Maru? Well, I don't mind this. I think it's actually one of the best choices. Just try to go for a cheeky Medevac drop and hope for the best. Maybe you can snipe the opponent's fourth nexus. Maybe you can get us around. Problem is, herO is not letting his foot off the gas. He's actually bringing the High Templar across the map. So this is going to be a gigantic amount of Protoss right over here. I love the Adept here as well. With the Shade, he scouts out the exact positioning of this army. Zealots are charging through already. At the very least, the Siege Tank is going to be saved. What about this army over here, though? That's the Medevac drop from earlier. I guess I need to keep my camera over here. Action all over the map right now. But this is going to hurt. There's only one pylon, really, to power a lot of this production. Problem here is, ooh, that the SCVs can't escape the storms. The force field was actually slightly off. Recall, though, is going to complete. And that, I think, will keep a lot of this safe. In the end, Maru does deal a significant amount of worker damage too on the other side of the map. But considering herO already had the bigger economy, if it was like a percentage of economy lost, herO obviously has lost a lot less than Maru. And you know what? Now Maru doesn't even have the worker count to go and pull the boys. Yeah, that has been his solution to every problem so far that he's faced in this series. Just pull all of the workers too, but now he doesn't have that many, and the ones that he does have, at least half of them are low HP. Massive problem right here for Maru, by the way. He was going for a move to the opponent's third base and accidentally stumbled upon a fourth. He's on 2 command centers versus a Protoss that's on 4 bases. Even the Zealots are hard to beat. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen, Maru. Brilliant game here from herO. Needs to be said. Really, the double medevac drop there was the only thing that caused him any problems. The only moment when he was probably slightly panicked. But across the board, I don't think he can really complain. Still though, never count Maru out. Terran units are really powerful. And mules are really good to rebuild the economy with. But he's just gonna storm even some of his own units. He's even just, well, storming some of the reinforcing units right now. A bunch of Archons get morphed in, and there's no solution to all of these problems. herO evens up the score. A solid back and forth so far. Game number 5. We find ourselves on the magnetic north. Interestingly enough, I again fast forwarded through the first couple of minutes. We have herO building a single pylon over here. And I think it's just to block any sort of Reaper path moving up towards the high ground. It's a weird spot for one, but I guess it'll work. Maybe we're going to find out here in just a moment. A Reaper will be moving in that direction. Obviously, the Reaper DPS is generally not high enough to be able to kill a pylon. Yeah, it's apparently good enough here to block this. I haven't actually seen any Protoss player do that just yet. Cute little move on this map. Anyways, the gloves have not gone back on. Sometimes after a back and forth, right, where the players really take turns winning maps, we get to a very conventional game number 5. I've noticed that over the years, where both players have decided, you know what, let's just, yeah, we've had a good couple of games so far. Let us just go ahead and have a look at a normal match, whatever that means. But nope, we're proxying a starport. It's going to be Hellions, though. Now, the problem is that Maru needs to send those Hellions from this section of the map towards the top left. I'm assuming medevac drop will be the name of the game. Yep. You now have to somehow sneak those Hellions from the bottom left towards the top left. And how in the world is Maru going to pull that off? herO's going to see the Hellions already. That's a little bit weird. Why would there be a bunch of Hellions right now? Okay. They're still good, obviously, at sniping Adepts. It's actually triple Adept this time. He wants to kill one of them. Okay, he does get the job done eventually. Medevac is waiting, though, boys. Wait, Proxy Tech Lab as well right now here for Maru. So maybe a Banshee on the back of this? Okay, now Blink is coming again. I don't know if herO is feeling too suspicious about the whole setup. He doesn't have a whole lot of production, actually. herO now taking a 3rd Nexus off of just 1 gateway? Oh, he's gonna get punished. 3 Hellions is enough to one-shot a probe. The low HP one, though, does get targeted down. 5 workers so far is very okay. Considering this is a single gate, triple Nexus opener. I mean, there's a 2nd gateway now, but it's very late. Considering the greed right here from herO, I think this is recoverable. More Hellions, though, did get produced inside of the factory, so we go in for a 2nd round over here. And this time, I think the probe barbecue is going to be quite a bit more successful. Everybody's invited, by the way, to the probe barbecue. Merry Christmas, everybody. Do you do a barbecue for Christmas? Yeah. It's too cold over here. Maybe in maybe in Australia or something. Maybe in Texas. In Texas, probably. Never been to Texas. But Texan viewers have told me that we do barbecue, I think, year-round, right? That's not a bad idea. All right, let's see. Counterattack right now from herO, who does still have triple Nexus, by the way, right? So he can rebuild the probes. Snipes the medevac here and loses a Stalker in the process. By the way, we have that Cloaked Banshee now coming up. This is so annoying from Maru, man. Maru is such a cheeky guy. And now, for the first time, yeah, the cloak gets revealed. And what was already looking like a bad game is getting even worse. Because of all the micro at home, the robotics facility is late. That means there's no observer. And without an observer, right now we need to either make one or wait until this Banshee runs out of energy. Now it takes 2 Banshees to one-shot a probe. Now that there is a 2nd one, we might just want to move them together or not. Maybe just keep them split. Yeah, we actually purposefully keep them split here to get even more damage done. Absolute disaster right here for herO. Now, I think what Maru could do, right? Judging by the previous games, I think he could pull the boys. Try to go for a cheeky little follow-up all-in here. My god, that's so much damage. 31 probes, 6 minutes into the game. When do we go, Maru? That's the question now. Do we even pull the boys? Oh, we create a wall-off. A wall-off of siege tanks. He was hoping to get some free shots off. Not going to happen. Then she goes back into the main base, by the way. Gets another probe. Yeah, and what do we actually have? 8 Stalkers. Yeah, 8 Stalkers versus all of this. No charge. No Colossi. No Storm. There's no solution. Maru gets another win. Another snowy map. Winter Madness. Match point. Number 1 right here for Maru. So again, because Maru is the one coming from the lower bracket, he basically used one of his 2 lives in this tournament up already. And since herO is undefeated so far in the playoffs of this particular event, of the RSL, if Maru ends up winning this particular match, if he ends up winning the best of 7, we play 1 additional best of 3 for all the marbles. If herO wins the best of 7, though, the tournament is over, and he would have been completely undefeated. Which is pretty sick. Pretty impressive, if you ask me. Especially considering how close the playing field really is, right? Like, if you look at high-level StarCraft all the time, if you watch any of the other pro gamers compete, it is so easy to just, like, lose. Especially, like, say, for example, a Protoss versus Protoss. Incredibly easy for herO to lose. Like, it's not a matchup that you can be... I mean, you can obviously be good at PvP, but it's not a matchup where you can reliably win every single time. I feel like, actually, in the modern era, the skill level of the top 10 players is just so ridiculously close. Anybody can effectively beat anyone at any given day. But there's still a few that are head and shoulders somehow, some way above the rest when it comes to overall tournament victories. And, well, herO seems to be winning the new patch so far very nicely. But in this particular series, it is Maru who seems to be 1 step ahead. Still, though, it's a very small step, right? It's not even really a step. He's like 1 toe ahead. Stargate opener again here for herO. Worked out nicely for him last time around. He's only done it once so far in the series. I'm assuming we're going Phoenixes again. Could be an Oracle. Nope. It's got to be Phoenixes. Maru, of course. I mean, herO as well. But Maru has been ridiculously consistent for such a long time now. Maru actually completed... he participated. He competed in the very first GSL Code S back in 2010. When he was, I think, like 13 years old. Something along those lines. Which is just an absurd statement. Obviously, he didn't win back then. Because your brain is, like, half developed. It takes a while. But just being able to be that good at the game at such a young age is kind of nuts. Just making it through the qualifiers of such a prestigious tournament. Because back then, it was already considered to be the most prestigious tournament in the entire game. Just making it through the qualifiers... it's kind of insane. It's kind of crazy. Took him a few years to really reach the absolute highest echelons of StarCraft 2, but ever since reaching that point, he has not given up. Third Nexus coming up again here for herO. As soon as we've got the minerals for it, that is. He's actually added on some additional safety gateways here. No reason, I guess, to risk it. And a bunch of adepts are going around. Nothing all too spicy here from Maru. No proxies this time around, even though they worked very nicely in the previous game. Well, if your opponent is opening up Phoenixes, proxy builds are just also so difficult to pull off. But we have the adepts going through, killing a bunch of SCVs. And in the meantime, the Banshee cloaking worked out nicely in the previous match. And it's going to be used once more aggressively on the other side. Second Banshee super late. Oh, actually, no. That's the third Banshee. That's why. Normally, you only go for 2, but apparently Maru wants to build up a third one. Early cloaking field, just to not appear as a red dot on the minimap here before the minerals indeed were already being spent. And this is nicely done. 2 probes, though. Nothing really to write home about. There is actually no reliable detection at the moment here for Maru. He could have done a lot more damage, but he decides not to risk it. Oracles have a spell called Revelation, which allows you to reveal units for 15 seconds. It's not a long time, but it's enough to kill a Banshee. Relatively low HP. Phoenixes, for example, 180 life in total. Oracles right here at 160. Banshee at only 140. Oh my god. Really, Maru? Dude, Maru just won't stop. Banshee dies immediately. Maru just will not stop with this type of aggression. Man, he knew, by the way, that there was an Oracle out. I would be very concerned for a stasis ward somewhere in that choke point. We've seen that time and time again on Winter Madness. The Adepts, though, chasing this back home. There was no stasis, and that means that Maru is going to be able to drive his siege tanks straight into the choke point. Okay. Now, it's Adepts, but they don't have glaives. A little bit funky, a little bit weird. Siege tanks, though, can be lifted up. Do we have to? Yes, we certainly will. They, of course, have a minimum firing range, and with all of the Adepts surrounding all of the things here, the siege tanks actually get very little work done. SCVs died already. There's a couple of bunkers still being built, but the Phoenixes do reign supreme in the end. A landed Viking. Yes, you can, by the way, lift a landed Viking. It's cursed. Yeah, okay, well, a few leftover Marines do go into the bunker eventually. Really? Now we pull the probes? Is this necessary, Maru? Or herO, rather? Is this... Okay, I guess it's fine. The probes actually do a reasonably good job. I didn't expect them to do this much damage so quickly, but... Okay. I guess he figured he wanted to clean that up sooner rather than later. And now suddenly, the Phoenix count is incredibly oppressive. Not a single one of them has died. Well, ooh, I spoke almost too soon, but no energy for a scan there for Maru, who's now reduced to just 20 workers. And with the Adept shading in, and the Phoenix is swooping in, still enough energy for more Graviton lifts. I think they will be able to dominate the skies yet again. No missile turret inside of the main base's mineral line either, but herO right now wants to go for the throat. He wants to snipe units as soon as they pop out. There's a Cyclone. Oh, he looked away for just a moment, but it does not matter. Oracle right now joins in the fray as well. He's basically just killing every possible attacking unit before going after the very meager-looking mineral line. Yeah, and at this point, the game is pretty much over. We do still have a Banshee, though, being a nuisance, but it does not deal even remotely enough damage. GG. And that means this best of 7 comes down to the map Mothership. We've been taking turns. Both players have been winning one game after the other. Apparently, herO on this 3-player map, right? It's a 1v1 map with 3 spawn locations. He decides to proxy his first gateway in the middle of the map. herO not afraid to mix it up. Yeah, neither of them has won 2 maps in a row, right? We've been trading back and forth. So considering herO won the previous map, I mean, logic would dictate that it's going to be the Terran now. Okay. Maru not going for an SCV scout. Obviously, this is herO trying to break the spell, though. Not going for any sort of shenanigans here that his opponent really expects. It's really odd, by the way, to go for a proxy gate on a 3-player map. But I guess if you are going to build it, this location over here is about as far away from the top spawn as it is from the bottom spawn. Could even move it a little bit further forward. This over here is the exact middle of the map. But I guess if your opponent is going for an early game SCV scout, it's probably a location that they will pass through. Anyways, this is Maru just playing it safe. It's going to be a barracks in the main base and then even a command center in the main base too. Factory, likewise, also inside of the main. Now, I don't know how committed we're going to be. 2 zealots, though, is quite a lot. What herO really is hoping for now is seeing the command center built on the low ground. Sadly for him, the choice was already made. And indeed, there is nothing on the low ground. If this command center was on the low ground, this opener here from the Protoss would work out wonderfully. Great interception here too, by the way, from Maru, who now sees a bunch of zealots marching in. Decides to go for the safety bunker. I like this. All of this is excellent here for the Terran. Some of it is accidental. But all of it is really good for him. Yeah, and this is not going to do anything now. Those 2 zealots that have been made are basically wasted. They're still going to put in a little bit of work. We should probably see a Cyclone in a moment. Yeah, the Stalker here is the scary part, because the SCVs need to be repairing this. Is this still going to work? Well, you know what? I caught you guys wasted. I'm sorry. You did kill a depot. And obviously, you forced a lot of SCVs to the front lines. The problem is, though, those 2 zealots, they did delay the Nexus here. So herO committing quite heavily into this early game proxy. He may even lose the gateway a little bit later, too. That would also be a problem, although Maru is not really thinking about going across the map just yet. He just calmly built up a tech lab here onto the factory. And Cyclones are going to be phenomenal here for base defense. Still, yeah, it's scary. It's a lot of units. More SCVs get pulled. Cyclones take forever to build. Lock-on, though, is so nice here. And I think you just chase it. Okay. Interestingly enough. Weird. 2 of the SCVs are returning that way. The other SCV is returning to the main. A little bit odd. But apparently some of them deem the other path shorter. I guess it's the same number of squares or something. Cheeky little Reaper Scout to confirm what's going on inside of the main base. Now, problem here for Protoss is that there's not a lot of good follow-ups that would really be a surprise. It's pretty much always going to be some sort of Twilight Council. 9 out of 10 times in that particular instance, it's going to be Blink, maybe even more than that. So, you become a little bit more predictable, which is exactly what herO is always trying to avoid. Still, though, I think he actually dealt with this early game quite well, right? Considering this was a command center in the main base, and this was pretty much worst case scenario as far as like a scoutless opener goes from the Terran, right? Like, he couldn't really do a lot more damage than he just did, and yeah, it worked out reasonably well at the very least. If you look at the absolute resources lost, you would even imagine this as an advantage, but the main problem is the fact that this command center here finished up long before the Nexus did. Still, easy to overestimate your advantage too right now as Terran, and I think it's important for Maru to not really, catch himself like that. It's very easy sometimes in a game of StarCraft to believe that your opponent is super far behind. Not really the case here. Let me just put it like this. If I was Maru in this position, I could lose really well. Yeah. I you know, it's impressive, but I think I could pull it off. I could still lose very nicely. So we're playing it safe. Stimpack needs to be fired up still. Maru! Maru! Stimpack! Now! Okay, maybe I need to not be so rude about it, but we already forgot Stim once in this series. Alright, there's the green light. And I think, well, as soon as we get up to 100 gas, we're also going to be going into the good old combat shields. Liberator in the meantime, on the anti-all-army hotkey position. Combat shields is a little bit of a faster upgrade. So as long as you start it up, with the next 100 gas or so, it will finish up in time with Stimpack. There it is. So now this holy trinity of Terran upgrades, they will all finish up at the same time, and it's going to be a massive power spike and a great opportunity for Maru to go across the map. So again, if Maru wins this, we do one more best of 3. If herO wins this, he is the winner of the 3rd season of the RSL. herO's plans, though, to win this are now indeed going to be Charge, and then also, I think, High Templar with Storm. But if you look at the supply count here for the Terran player, right, it's just such a big army. No 3rd command center, by the way, for Maru, so he needs to go for a push sooner rather than later. And I think he wants to start moving right about right now, because this is the point where Stimpack, Combat Shields, and +1 are all close to being done. You effectively want to fight right when those upgrades finish, because that is the smallest chance that your opponent is going to have the necessary units to deal with it. And obviously, the biggest power spike for you. Great attack here by Maru, right? Look at the upgrades finishing up. Right now, he's ready for an engagement. He's got Protoss on the ropes. Storm, by the way, is not yet done. Now, there are some High Templar. Maybe he can fake it. Faking it is not frowned upon in Protoss community. They do it all the time, man. It's like, I am scary! I've got the energies! Look at my energy! Well, Psystorm is now nearly done, though. Mostly just sightseeing with the High Templar up until this point. Is there enough? He decides to charge through right now. The decent Storm there, but not an amazing one. And the siege tanks are still tearing everything else apart. Maru's reaction there was good. Secondary wave coming in for Protoss. Not a very successful one either. This choke point, though, is always sketchy. Not a lot of Medivacs available. Okay, 2 more do join in. It's important not to overstim here, of course, as Terran. The siege tanks decide to leapfrog slightly further forward. He triggers the shields right there on the Immortals, which is actually quite nice. More and more charges. Is there enough, though? I mean, this is an awful lot of Protoss. The problem is those Marines and Marauders are dealing so much damage. He's going to be able to kill the siege tanks, yes, but what about the rest of the units? Reinforcing Terran troops, though, are running through the middle of the map. No all-army hotkey Stimpack or anything along those lines. Yeah, considering this is indeed still pretty much 2-base economy for herO, I don't really mind the idea of Maru just slowing down a bit, right? If there was a huge amount of eco at the 3rd base of the Protoss player, he would have to get a bit of a move on. He can still dance. But considering this is now 2-base eco versus 2-base eco, with a 3rd Nexus, or a 3rd Terran Nexus, a command center coming, I think it's fine. herO, though, doesn't want to dance for too long. He decides to go for a proxy gateways in the middle of all this chaos, which I quite like. I think actually being able to send in a few Zealots on the counterattack may just be enough to get this Terran player off of your front door. Somehow need to force this army here from the Terran to go back. In the meantime, Ghost Academy coming up too. Cheeky little Widowmine drop actually moves in through the back. Cheeky little Widowmine over here too moves in at the 3rd. The dance in the middle is decent enough, but the Widowmine hit here is not terrible. Okay, Stalkers finally do clean this up. But this is annoying right here for herO, right? And it looks like both players have decided to just go home and maybe go for a push here again in just a moment's time. But I don't think Maru can be too unhappy about it. Whenever Terran is somewhat even in economy with Protoss, that's usually good. Protoss is usually the one. Nice hold position. Protoss is usually the one in this matchup that is a base up. What really nice thing here as well for Maru is that he's soon going to be 2 upgrades ahead of the opponent. So he's effectively ahead right now in eco, in upgrades, and then also in army. It's small, though. Like, the differences are minuscule, really. Oh, EMP, big EMP, gets the High Templar, gets the Zealots. Nice work right there by the Terran yet again. Yeah, it's small advantages, but this is something that you can lean into very nicely. Here we go, though. Blink forward. He wants to snipe down those Liberators, and this is still a scary Protoss army. There's 1 Storm available, and it does go onto the SCVs. Because of the new version of Storm, though, he decides to just go and run through it. In the meantime, the Marines, Marauders, and the Medivacs are trying to stutter step to the best of their abilities, and the Immortals here are not living up to their names. All 3 of them end up going down. Still, it came at the cost of 13 SCVs, which is significant. Zealot Runby was thinking about moving into the army, instead wants to go after the mineral line right now, which I do think is the right move. Maru, okay, he's just repositioning the command center. May very well be forced to lift it off yet again. The rest of the Terran army now coming back home. He doesn't really know how many reinforcements there are set up at the moment. Ghosts are expensive, though, but EMP is still nice. Yeah, he decides to just run with those units instead. Counterattack here from Maru. He does not want to give this Protoss player too much time to build back up more energy. So if you can go after the mineral line at the bare minimum, maybe even the Nexus itself, that would be perfect for him. Zealots are actually forced to now run back home. And even though it's a little difficult to see, we do see probes dying. Nexus itself is still fine. Maru not really willing to take any chances at this point. His tournament life is on the line. herO has a little bit of wiggle room. Careful with those medevacs. One of them dies. It was an empty one. Ooh, I kind of hate this positioning. Maru only just now, I think, scouts out. Yeah, that there is indeed a proxy. Now, second medevac gets sniped. But sadly here for herO, he got 2 empty ones. Some of those medevacs were full, some of them were empty. Could have been 20 supply down the drain. Oh, wow. A cheeky little drop here as well. Attempted, but nice pre-splits by herO. Keeping the energy on the Templar for now. What about this positioning over here, though? Oh, those EMPs are so juicy. No more storms in his army anywhere. SCVs pulled this time around for the defense. A lot of SCVs are going to die, but I wonder if this entire Protoss army is not also going to fall. There's really nowhere to run. Reinforcing units here, too. I don't think that's enough, herO. Nope. That is certainly not enough damage dealt at all. GG gets cold, and that means we are going to the reset match. Okay. So, interestingly enough, game number 1 of the reset match is indeed on Mothership again. So, we just came from this map. Apparently, we go straight back to it. So, in case you're wondering, the way that this usually works in StarCraft 2 tournaments, you do vetoes for the series that you're playing. So, in a best of 7, both players get 1 veto each. And then they take turns choosing the map order. For a reset match like this one, we basically start again from scratch. So, we effectively now treat this as a best of 3 series. And that means that both players get a lot more vetoes. Now, both of these guys, they are jokesters. They certainly don't mind memeing around a little bit, and obviously there's a lot of mind games at play. So I wonder if maybe they're gonna go for something a little different this time around on Mothership. Nothing all too weird, though. Just a good old gateway here, protecting the high ground. Also completely ignoring the pylon indicators that the map maker put up here. Can't really blame him, to be fair. You can do this with a single pylon rather than 2. Actually, I think maybe that's still the indicator where you just put one of the 2 locations and you can wall off perfectly. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Next is on the low ground right here, though, for the Protoss player. And both players decide to start off entirely scoutless. I think this SCV, yep, it is going to go to the low ground, mine 5 minerals. It's going to give him just enough cash here to build up the good old command center. 400 minerals required. Bam. Smack that in the middle. So even though we did see him go for the in-base command center in the previous game on Mothership, this time around we just build it right there on the low ground. Okay. Yeah, what do you guys think of the double elimination format? I kind of like it when a best of 7 series or a best of 9 series is just simply it for the grand finals. But if you're using a double elimination format, it does make sense to give herO, right? Who, well, obviously had no losses in the tournament just yet. He basically just lost his first series in the playoffs. Yeah, to give him at least a little bit of an advantage. So some tournament organizers have solved it by giving the player coming from the upper bracket the 1-0 advantage going into the grand finals. Wait. No way. Okay, well, sure. herO right there. Having a bit of a herO moment. Yeah, I don't really know exactly what the best solution is. I like the double elimination format personally quite a lot. But I think the ways of doing a grand finals like this are kind of messy. But then again, the goal for a tournament is to decide who the best player is. And while it takes a little bit more of an explainer, I do think that this is probably the best way to determine who the greatest player of the entire event signups list was. Yeah, there's something nice and clean, though, about just a single elimination format, where you just have one best of 7 for all the marbles. In which particular instance this time around, it would have been Maru winning the whole thing. Then again, you could also make the argument, right, with a double elimination format, that since Maru had to play one extra round in the lower bracket, he already had to face off against an extra player. In this particular instance, Maru had to play a best of 7 against Shin to be able to climb back into the grand finals. That maybe is already enough punishment for him? Anyways, seems like there's no agreement on it. There's really no set standard, although this may actually be the standard. And ultimately, you know what? It means more StarCraft. And more StarCraft is always better, in my mind. Alright, let's see. What can we do here? Pretty significant group of Terran units move out. It's a bit of a weird push, though, here. Shield battery is going to be super powerful. I mean, it's only a handful of Terran units here in the end. I don't think I like this push all too much here for Maru. Yeah, he disagrees. Or he agrees as well. He decides to disengage here. No real reason to be fighting into a battery like that. He knows that Blink is going to be done sooner rather than later. And when it finishes, you never really know how many times it's been chronoed, right? But when it finishes, this type of attack just falls flat on its face. So Maru decides to not really take any chances. herO celebrates the defense with a 3rd Nexus. Yeah, you could give the advantage, I suppose, of the winner from the upper bracket. You could give them the advantage of, like, vetoing 2 maps at the very start. Like, give them the map veto advantage. Or something. You could do something like that. There's many little things you can do to fiddle around with. But anyways, apparently the RSL decided to go for the most complex version of all of the options. I don't really mind it, but I'm always a little bit afraid when I explain it during the cast that like 90% of people listening have already zoned out after the first sentence, and then I ramble on for another 4 minutes explaining the tournament format, and everybody's like, yo, I have no idea what he's talking about anymore. But sure, Loco. Whatever you say, Loco, is fine, man. It's okay, dude. I don't really care. A couple of stalkers in the main base. It's fine. It's okay. And we have Storm as well in the back of this. So, a very cautious first game of the reset match, right? Neither player really going big. Neither player really taking any crazy chances. This is what I sort of expected the series, just the grand finals in general, to start off like. Both players sort of testing the waters, cautiously attacking. But none of that is really happening until the reset match, apparently. Both players have been very committed. Now, the problem here for Maru is that he's thinking of attacking. But yeah, you can see the perfect defensive tools finishing up right here on the right side of the screen. Charge and Storm are just so good. You can't really attack into a Protoss player that has enough stuff. There's 5 High Templar out. All of them will have energy for Storm. I wish Maru good luck if he decides to go for a push. Now, Maru did not build a 3rd command center until just now, so it's about 90% or so of the way done. But obviously, while this is happening, Protoss has already had the eco lead. Now, herO expands in the direction of the Terran. Usually, the player that expands first expands away from the opponent, because you want to lean into that defensive position some more. But this is herO we're talking about. herO is expanding while being the aggressor, sure. We have 2 of the High Templar inside of their private jet. There's no EMPs available anyways, but you can still use this, of course, to maybe come in with a flank like this. Okay, a couple of feedbacks as well into the Metavex. We wanted an Archon anyways. Fair enough. Good bit of damage done, actually, in that instance. Okay, are we gonna go? herO decides to pull the trigger. There are a couple Liberators, though, but the siege tanks are so exposed. The Storms are really nice. Maru, though, walks out of them and then realizes, wait a second, I need to chase this army down. It was a lot of units on the side of the Protoss, but it was even more units on the side of the Terran. Protoss Medevac here. The Prism does manage to escape just barely in the nick of time. And right now, while we have the Liberators trying their best, the Immortal does get dropped off on the other side of that crevice. Maru has no energy, though, on any of those Medevacs anymore. They're all gone, and that means that indeed just a handful of Zealots and that one Immortal from earlier are going to be able to tear these units apart. They're basically all one sneeze away from death. Overextension there from Maru. He won the fight, yes, but then decided to commit. Much like that Immortal from earlier, though, the Marauder also does get saved, but the third base has to be evacuated. That looked really scary for herO for just a moment. But he survives, and he actually gets a really nice lead here on the back of all of it. Maru needs to get that base secured here, ASAP. He cannot really allow these Stalkers to sit out here and delay the expansion for too long. Because he knows that at this point Protoss is mining, right? He hasn't really seen the Nexus, interestingly enough. But he knows that there's very likely a fourth out there somewhere. Doesn't really matter where it's located, but he knows that at income levels, he's just going to fall behind so fast. I mean, for a good couple minutes there, herO is effectively getting 10 Zealots more per minute that goes by than the opponent. That is an insane amount of stuff. And more stuff, it's not very elegant, but more stuff does beat less stuff most of the time. Storm? Oh, good Storm. Really good Storm, actually. Liberators, of course, can now just be shut down with ease. It's going to be the end of those bad boys. Zealots, though, do charge into a bunch of mines. But really, what herO is trying to do is secure this contain. He doesn't really care about pushing into the natural expansion so much. He wants to lean into the eco lead. Terran needs to get that base up. And is this the moment that he will be able to get the job done? I'm not so sure. SCVs here tanking in front of the party. We do have a Ghost throwing an EMP onto whatever they can hit. More and more of the bad boys get pulled, but more and more of the reinforcements for Protoss will also arrive. And it's messy, it's bloody, but all of this is a massive advantage for herO. And while Maru technically is still alive and breathing, yeah, herO is not gonna let his foot off the gas. And that is one thing you always know from herO. He is not gonna take an opportunity like this and let it slide. It's perfectly allowed. If this was Showtime playing, I wouldn't have been surprised if he just sat back for a little bit longer and just relaxed for a bit. Let the Terran player come to him, but that is not herO's ways. It looks to me like herO is gonna get the 1-0 lead in this reset match of the RSL Grand Finals. GG gets called, and indeed, herO gets the job done. Alrighty, next up, match point right here for herO. We find ourselves on Tokamak. Maru decides to proxy the very first barracks right outside in the middle of nowhere, hoping that maybe there's a probe scout going across the map to see that there's something lacking. herO is actually going to go for the probe scout, it looks like, but I don't know if he's going to go all the way across the map. Okay. It's just going to be a Nexus here. And probably a Cybercore inside of the main base on the back of this. Technically a little bit greedy here for herO. So this is a scoutless Nexus into Cybercore opener. At 19 supply as well. So it's greedy. It can technically lose to a lot of stuff. But what Maru here is going for is not something that will auto-counter it. Maru trying to play the mind game. Loses it already from a very greedy herO. And obviously herO now leading this particular best of 3. He has a bit of wiggle room. He can take some chances. He can take a risk and then, well, if it doesn't work out, we still have one match left to go. But if it does work out, you end up with a very nice little eco lead. And Maru right now sees what's going on. I mean, this is, by the way, not spotted. These building Protoss structures don't have a lot of vision range. So we have a cheeky bunker right behind the main bases, or the Naturals mineral line, rather. So right over here on the other side of the map. Still, though, it's just going to be a Reaper. Maybe a second. Reapers are not really Nexus killers. Not anymore, ever since they gave up on that grenade attack that they used against structures for many years, if you may recall from the olden days of StarCraft 2. They used to be absolutely insane. Reapers honestly may be like the most nerfed unit in the history of StarCraft 2. They haven't really been touched in about a decade, but they were lethal back in early Wings of Liberty. Twilight Council right now to begin the wall off. Yeah, Maru is annoying here, but herO is not really overcommitting to the defense. He's making probes from that natural, but he's just sending them into the main base, waiting for additional Stalkers to finish up, waiting for that shield battery to finish up. Here go the Reapers, trying to be a nuisance. Ooh, that's a cheeky little force field. Hoping he was going to be able to get both. Not quite the case, but now with the shield battery done, it should be pretty straightforward to clean all of this up. Yeah, it's really easy, right? So if you're like a casual StarCraft player, if you're a ladder hero, this is the type of opener that can just completely blindside you. Right? It's very easy here as Protoss to overcommit to the defense. When in reality, this really wasn't that much commitment here from Terran at all. But you need to be able to read the situation like that, right? So ultimately, yes, there was a kill on that bunker, but there was also a shield battery forced out. The shield battery can still be useful a little bit later on into the game, but not against Widowmine drops. Blink yet again, by the way, here for herO, who enjoyed the greed quite a bit thus far. So even though we have a second gateway done right now, it is a super fast third Nexus, all things considered. The norm is to go and build a third Nexus off of 3 gateways. We only have 2, and only just barely 2. What is Maru going to be able to do about it, though? Well, the only chance he really has to deal damage is his Widowmine drop, so let's keep an eye out on it. Ooh, again, don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. It's fine. It's messy, though. Yeah. When you go for the double gate and you only have like 2 Stalkers in total, reinforcements now show up. And when you have 2 Stalkers in the main in total for that sort of stuff, you kind of have to sacrifice at least some of it. You can try to get like only 2 kills, I guess, on your probes. Use the probe right there to sacrifice itself. Did herO just see the... Yeah, he did. Wow. He did see the starport landing onto a tech lab, so 9 out of 10 times that means it is going to be some sort of Banshee shenanigans. He will need some sort of detection, though, and at this point we don't have a robo facility yet. Alright. Maru's gonna test the waters. Are we gonna pull the boys? Of course we're gonna pull the boys. It's only a couple, though. Well, it's 5. More than a couple. Still a very scary push. Blink Stalkers are really the only choice here for herO. And of course, if Maru ends up killing the third Nexus, that would be absolutely amazing for him. No third command center on the back of this right now for our Terran player. Ooh, this is good. This is exactly what Maru was baiting out this entire series so far. Hasn't really been able to get those free shots in onto the Stalkers, but now he did get like 3 or so Stalker kills here for basically nothing. Probes have to be pulled too. Blinks forward, goes after the siege tanks, but not enough units available here for herO. And what was starting off as a phenomenal early game here for the Protoss has now turned into a bit of a disaster. Maru getting just the right shots with those siege tanks, getting just the right units pulled to the front as well. It looks like even the Twilight Council here is going to get sniped. Or maybe just go after the pylons and disable some of those structures. Yeah, that's 10 probes going down. Maru, though, doesn't want to kill the Nexus. He is here to, yeah, take the cake and then eat it too. Cheeky little bunker follow-up yet again. Man, Maru has been relentless with the SCV aggression. You gotta love it. Now the siege tanks are nice and tucked away. There's not gonna be charge. How in the world do you break this? Well, you can send in the boys. You may as well give it a shot. Stalkers blink forward. They're awkwardly trying to squeeze themselves to get it with those probes next to the bunkers. The tanks do fall, but the question is, at what cost? All of the minerals here, well, are gonna be available now. And I don't believe that Maru is pushed away out of this position. This series has been an absolute back and forth. Whenever one player wins, well, it seems that in the next game, the alternative player obtains the victory. And look at this, man. This bunker attack is kind of nuts. He sends in a couple more reinforcing units home. The third Nexus is still up. I mean, you could call this a hold right now for herO, But there's just nothing. There's nothing really for him to fall back to. Still no third command center, though, for Maru. There's a very small hit squad of Stalkers. If there weren't any units available at home, maybe those Stalkers could put in some work. Triple Banshee, though, will get the job done eventually. And, well, once Siege Tank dies, all of the Stalkers do as well. We are going to the final match of this best of 3 reset match. And that means it all comes down to this. The final game of the Grand Finals takes place on the Magnetic North again. A phenomenal series so far. These two are incredibly evenly matched. I just want to emphasize, by the way, that both of these players are perfectly capable of playing the macro game. As a matter of fact, I think both Maru and herO probably do it better in their respective races than anybody else, although there are a few frontrunners, I suppose, that are really good at macro games. But what I'm trying to say is that neither Maru nor herO shies away from playing the macro game. In this particular series, I think the longest game was like maybe 12 minutes or so. Oh, no. No, 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 no. Oh, proxy versus proxy? Proxy versus proxy. I mean, it's a very conservative proxy here for Maru. He's doing the same thing as what he tried to do in the previous game. herO, though, decides to put it all on the line with, I think, a gateway. Yeah, a gateway over here. Cybercore inside of the main base. This is a very ballsy play. But you know what? When you think about it, right? I feel like herO has been better in the games where he's been the aggressor. Not that he's playing defensively poorly or whatever, but it seems that as soon as Maru gets across the map, the game is so difficult to control. Maru is just such a beast with it when it comes to the aggression. So if he can maybe take the reins here right at the very start, I think it's not a bad idea to try out a cheeky little push like that. It's just going to be a Reaper, by the way. Maybe 2 Reapers, maybe a bunker yet again. At least that's what Maru... He wanted to do the same thing as he did just now. He wanted to do another cheeky little bunker right over there. Not going to be happening. Okay. He will see that there's no Nexus. And even though there's very little information available here, he sees the start of the Nexus. Maru will pick up on the fact that this is delayed. Now, there's 2 options whenever your opponent is delayed. Either they're bad at the game, unlikely in this particular instance, or they're spending their money elsewhere. He made a loop around the main base there too and scouted the fact that there is no second pylon. There should be a second pylon already for the Protoss player out. So, where is it? Well, he will notice here the Stalker has shown up very early, and I think this will put all of the puzzle pieces together. The question now becomes, is herO going to be able to deal damage with this? We already have the blind tech lab here, which I really love. Maru going straight into the Cyclone production. As we already saw earlier, Cyclones are absolutely pivotal when it comes to the base defense, and I think this is already mostly fine here for the Terran. Yeah, how attached is herO going to be to that proxy gate, right? You really don't want to give up on it, but I also don't think you really want to produce out of it at this point in time. You can maybe make a few units still, but overcommitting to it, probably not optimal. Okay, Twilight Council. Second command center. All of it is coming up. Maru did not want to take any chances, though. Made a bunker, decided to salvage it, get the majority of his cash back. And while we had heavy confidence from both players earlier on in this series, it seems like Maru may have just lost it a little bit. herO, though, not so much. herO decides to go charge first. I will always find charge first at the pro level an interesting choice. Because again, your average Diamond League player can attack move as well with Zealots as herO can. There's just very little finesse when it comes to microing charge slots. But herO brings it out consistently, and it's so powerful. And honestly, so far in this series, he hasn't really done it yet. Siege Tank will be coming up. Widowmine, by the way, gets spotted. Nice lock-ons, though. Yep, that's going to be 2 Adepts down the drain. Eventually, the tech lab also goes down, but immediate reposition on the Widow Mine is going to make it pretty much impossible for those Stalkers to actually go in. This is now effectively, though, a one base contain. herO's going to check whether or not the alternative base maybe have landed somewhere else. Maybe it's, yeah, maybe it's out there somewhere, but he knows that there is likely an orbital command. Where did it go? Well, now he will find it. Yeah, he's just seen it right over here on the low ground. Siege tank pops out. I don't think it's really worth it for the Protoss to overstay, so Maru secures the natural. Tech lab coming up again. Forced to rebuild it. Combat shields actually as the very first upgrade here for the Terran. I don't really mind it too much. It's a really solid HP buff for the Marines, but of course it does mean that he's not going to be able to really be too aggressive with the units. You really do need Stimpak for that sort of thing, which we probably will see here in a moment, but not just yet. Dart Next is all ready though for herO. Man, herO is still just oozing confidence. It's kind of nuts. Medevac is scouting out. He knows that there's a proxy gate, but he doesn't know where it is. No way. Okay, he's going to see it now. I thought Maru was going to be incredibly unlucky there for a moment. He does see eventually where all of these units came from. Now, obviously, you can still use this as a warp-in location, right? We already saw that herO on the Celestial Enclave a long time ago at this point. Like an hour and a half ago or so. I don't know. It's been forever. We already saw that he is not afraid of breaking open a high ground like this. But then he had Storm. And this time around, we're not going Storm. Instead, we're going Robo Bay. So he is going to be ending up with a Colossus-based army, which again has been uncommon in this finals in general. Siege tanks are sieging up. Siege tanks are sieging up. Good shot right here for our Terran. Yep. He's going to get a couple of freebies. Quick pull as well, by the way, on the SCVs. Maru's thinking about a counterattack. I'm not sure if I agree with it. Yeah, he probably has to at some point. But the problem is, now he doesn't have Stim. And without Stim, it's really difficult to actually move out. Gateways are finishing. Side of the main base. We do have a Robo Bay. But I think herO is a little bit concerned of a big timing attack here from the Terran. So he decided to go for an Immortal rather than transition to the Colossus. I wouldn't mind seeing one right now. Decides to go for the Prism. So very conservative follow-up here too from herO. Just giving himself more mobility. And here we go yet again. herO is going to be facing another all-in from Maru. One SCV pool for the victory of the RSL. Is there enough for Protoss to hold on? Keep in mind, there's no Storm and there's no Colossus. He actually canceled the Robo Bay. That's what ended up happening there. There is no Robo Bay anymore. It's an expensive structure. herO decided to cancel it and get some additional units out instead. Problem is, though, for Terran, there is no Stim. Yeah, he looks at the army. He sees charge. I think he probably just doesn't want to take the chances. Maru, okay, decides to make the high-level move to go back home. But this does feel massively wasteful to me. This move out just cost him hundreds of resources of potential mining that he lost. Obviously, this will favor herO massively. herO has been sitting on a reasonably small economy for a while now, but obviously at least his workers were mining. It's only going to be a temporary boost, but I do think herO got at least like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 zealots or so out of it. Okay, let's see. Siege tanks, though, still sieged up right over there in the middle. More and more idle SCVs right over here, too. Okay, Hallucinated Phoenix is going to scout out that indeed this army is still hanging out. Oh my god, we pull more of the boys! It's a double-layered SCV pool. The force fields, though, make it difficult for the Terran to actually advance. We did have a High Templar, yeah, follow-up here. Wow, this is cursed. Look at that. Why does it look like that? Okay, not the time loco to discuss that. We do have Archons here, but no Psystorm research. It's too expensive. herO doesn't have the time. Marines are pushing forward. There's a bunch of SCVs in the front. One of them, the Immortals here, does end up going down. Siege tanks siege up. Where are they going to fire first? They want to go after whatever they can hit. For now, the Zealots are going down, but 24 SCVs also paid the price. Still, though, there's a lot of Marines available. Oh. A very tense moment, but this is perfectly manageable for herO thus far. herO still has charge, and charge is just so powerful in this instance. He decides to commit, though. He wants to get those Immortals and Zealots on top of the siege tanks, and he snipes them indeed. Backs up again, wants to wait for the Stimpak to wear off. Really no reason to be fighting while Stimpak is active. Here's another pool. It's the triple SCV pool here from Maru, who brought the rest of his economy across the map. Is there enough for this Terran army to still somehow break through this all? I don't think there is. Reinforcing Protoss units are coming out, and even some of the boys on the side of the Protoss will be pooled. It's going to be a worker battle to the end. Right now, though, it's only the Marines and the Medivacs that still remain. We get some good stutter step micro, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the numbers are favoring Terran anymore. He is targeting down the High Templar. He doesn't know that Storm is not researched, but at this point, Maru has to salvage whatever he's got, pick up, and maybe reposition. Siege tank sieges up in the, well, tall grass, making it difficult for the Protoss to actually get on top of it. He sees it here eventually as he gets vision. Immortals are paying the price for it. Moves behind this line of sight blocker yet again. The Immortal will survive for now. But all of this is leading to a Protoss economy that is more than twice as big as that of the Terran. It's on 3 bases rather than 2. We are 10 plus minutes into the game, and that means that the main is drying up for Maru. And while he can reposition the orbital command to a fresh mineral line, all of it would just take so much time. There's very little urgency right now for herO. Obviously, he doesn't want to give the Terran player too much wiggle room, but I really don't mind here him going back and letting his foot off the gas for just a moment. Because what are the odds of Maru coming back at this point? How is he going to pull it off? Well, Maru already showed his hand. How does he try to come back in situations like this? He goes for a cheeky medevac drop, and herO is anticipating it right now. He's at home. He's going to be able to scout this easy peasy. Feedbacks onto the medevacs is perfect. That means that there's no more energy available to heal up these units, and while he can get away, I think at Maru's point right now, or at this point in Maru's game plan, he knows that this is going to be a massive uphill battle. Medevacs actually get scouted now in the middle of the map too here for the Protoss, who will be more than happy to take one last fight right in this section. Is he gonna commit? Yep, we are just leading with a bunch of Zealots, but he does not care. SCV pool number 4 in just a single game does come out. We do have a good bit of damage here still being dealt by Maru's forces, but it's more SCVs paying the price. Some nice little bit of Immortal Archon juggling as well. But ultimately, it is herO who obtains the victory. So he loses the first best of 7, 4-3, but then wins the reset match because he came from the upper bracket, 2-1 over Maru. And if I'm not mistaken, they literally went back and forth the entire way through, right? I'm pretty sure game number 1, and then we just traded wins. Literally for every single one of the games. That's kind of insane. I don't think I've ever seen a finals wrap up quite like that. Either way, though, these two were ridiculously evenly matched, right? And I feel like there's an alternate world out there where it would have been herO winning 4-0, or it would have been Maru winning 4-0, because it's just one of those matchups that really can tip either way. But an absolute banger. I gotta say, herO's mental game seems to be a step ahead of pretty much everybody else. Like, you could see that Maru was more cautious here in these final couple of matches, right? A little bit indecisive. Decided to go for that really safe bunker inside of the main base in the early game, for example, when there really wasn't any real reason for it. Whereas herO was still just doing whatever herO does best. Choose the craziest strategies, bring them out at the perfect moment, and, well, just like that, he gets another Premier Tournament win.